What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Vegas 98. We have Tatsuro Taira going against Brandon Royval. And yeah, looking forward to this card, actually. I think it's a sleeper card. I think we have some very fun fights on it, some violent fighters on the card as well. And yeah, it's been a while since we've been in the Apex, but yeah, looking forward to breaking it down. As always, before we get into it, if you guys could do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment. All three of those things go a very, very long way. And we do have to shout out the winner for the UFC 307 Significant Strike Contest with Alex Pereira and Khalil Roundtree. They did combine for an insane 188 significant strikes, and shout out to Damari, who guessed 181 significant strikes. He was the closest, so shout out to Damari. He got it done, 7 away. Honestly, a really good guess. I was not expecting the fight to reach the fourth round there, so shout out to Damari. You were the closest there. Yeah, other than that, be on the lookout for more content throughout the week. Friday got the final thoughts. Saturday got best bet. Betting breakdown video will be out Friday, Saturday as well. So yeah, be on the lookout for all of that. All right, I say we get into it here. We have 13 fights to break down, and we're going to kick it off with the first fight of the card. It is Junior Tafa going against Sharaf. We got Junior Tafa, 28 years old, 6'3" with a 72-inch reach, 5-3 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Sharaf, he's 31 years old, 6'2", 4-0 and 4-0 in his only 5 fights. Tafa is a pretty decent-sized favorite here, so he opened up minus 300. He's currently minus 310, and Sharaf opened up plus 250, and he's currently plus 260. So this was originally supposed to be Chris Barnett in here, and it was something that I was really looking forward to, and the fight got called off. Barnett had to pull out, but in steps Sharaf here on like a couple days short notice. But yeah, there's not much information here on Sharaf. This guy has 4 fights. He's finished all those 4 fights. He has not fought the best competition. I haven't really seen him wrestle. I think I saw him attempt maybe one, takedown, didn't get it. But yeah, I mean, if this fight takes place on the feet, I have to go with Junior Tafa here. But you never know. Maybe Sharaf does come out here and wrestle, and if he does, he probably wins just because Tafa literally has no takedown defense, no ground game whatsoever. It's just we haven't really seen it out of Sharaf there. So I got to go Tafa here. Minus 310 is what it is, but I think he knocks out Sharaf in the first round. The under is juiced to minus 310, minus 320. So yeah, I think somebody's probably getting served here in the first round, but I'll go Tafa, and Tafa by first round knockout. Moving on to the next fight, we got Julia Polastri going against Cory McKenna. We got Polastri, 26 years old, 5'2", with a 63-inch reach, 12-4 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. McKenna, 25 years old, 5'3", with a 58.5-inch reach, 8-3 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Polastri opened up minus 175. She's now minus 130, and Cory McKenna opened up as a plus 150 underdog. She's currently plus 110. Some monies came in on McKenna, which makes sense. This fight's going to be close. This fight's going to decision, and it's going to all come down to the crooked, corrupt judges and what they kind of think here. Yeah, for me, I was really impressed with the loss that Polastri had in her last fight against Josephine Knudsen, where she was actually able to take down Knudsen, have a lot of success. She was also able to get into full mount at the end of the first round. And she was able to get a couple takedowns, throughout the fight as well. And Knudsen's somebody that I rate really highly. I know people do as well. The striking didn't look great in the Knudsen fight, but I think that had a lot to do with Knudsen just being the better striker there, because typically Polastri, her striking does look pretty solid. And yeah, I mean, it's a Cory McKenna fight. Cory McKenna is one of the least trustworthy fighters I've ever seen in my entire life. I'll never forget that Elise Reed fight where the path to victory is clearly there. She refused to not go out there and take her down, and then she goes out there and takes down Jacqueline Amarim and gets submitted. It just makes no sense. I mean, the fight IQ of Cory McKenna is very, very questionable. So yeah, I mean, Cory, I can definitely see a scenario where she's able to get a takedown here or there, and if she does, she probably, wins a round just because her control time is very good, but I think Polastri is the better striker. I think she hits harder. I think her ground game's improving. The takedown defense is improving as well. The one time we did see Polastri taken down, it was against Jasmine Jasnavicius on the Contender Series back in 2021. And, yeah, I mean, you can't really, falter for that. Jasmine's much bigger than Cory McKenna there. So, yeah, I like Polastri here, but, again, it's going to go to decision, and it's going to come down to what the crooked, corrupt, blind judges think in this one. But, yeah, it should be a close fight, but Polastri by decision for me. Moving on to the next fight. It is Cody Haddon going against Dan Argueta. We got Haddon, 26 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach, 7-1, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Dan Argueta, 31 years old, 5'7", with a 68-inch reach, 9-2 and 1, 2-2 no contest in his last 5 fights. This fight opened up a pick 'em -110 each way. Cody Haddon is now -180. Dan Argueta is +155. And I think I'm going to pick the underdog here in Dan Argueta. I think this is a close fight, and I actually think Haddon's a very good fighter. He's fought some solid competition outside the UFC. Has a loss against Steve Erceg. That's his only loss there, where he was getting taken down and controlled throughout the fight, but there's no shame in that loss whatsoever. I thought Haddon looked really good on the Contender Series. I think the striking of Haddon's really good, really crisp, has some power, really good finisher, black belt in BJJ. A lot of things to like about Haddon, but Dan Argueta certainly has a path to victory here, and that's going to be the wrestling. Dan Argueta is going out there in these fights, and he's landing almost 5 takedowns per 15 minutes, so I could see a scenario where Dan Argueta is able to mix in some takedowns, get some control. Dan Argueta's fought the much better competition overall. He's been in the UFC much longer. Cody Haddon has a long flight from Australia to Las Vegas. So, yeah, there are some things to like for Dan Argueta here, +155. He's not somebody that's going to blow you away, but he does have a path to victory here with that wrestling. So I'll take Dan Argueta to win a very close fight. I could see a scenario where it's like a damage over control type situation, where, do these crooked judges favor, the damage of Cody Haddon landing the better shots, throwing up submissions, or are these crooked, corrupt judges maybe scoring the control? Dan Argueta getting takedowns, maybe not doing much with it, but getting control nonetheless. And I think it's going to come down to the hands of the crooked, corrupt judges. So when that's the case, I typically want to be on that plus money. And, Dan Argueta +155 by decision. Moving on to the next fight. This is one of my favorite fights on the entire card, and it's on the prelims. It's Jonathan Pearce going against Pat Sabatini. We got Jonathan Pearce, who is 32 years old, 6 foot with a 71-inch reach, 14-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Sabatini, 33 years old, 5'8", with a 70-inch reach, 18-5 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Pearce opened up -150, currently -185. And Pat Sabatini opened up +130. He's currently +160. Yeah, this is a fight where, like I said, it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite fight on the entire card. I think both guys have a path here. With Pat Sabatini, I think that path would be a submission. Jonathan Pearce has been submitted, I think, 3 times in his career. 3 times. And he's also been put into like a ton of bad spots. And if he gets into some of those same spots against a high-level black belt in Pat Sabatini, he could be in trouble. But on the flip side, Jonathan Pearce has a path to victory here, and that's, knocking out Pat Sabatini. That's breaking Pat Sabatini, because we've seen Pat Sabatini hurt in multiple fights. We saw him knocked out by Diego Lopez, which isn't the worst loss. We saw him get knocked out in 60 seconds by Damon Jackson. That's not the best look. We also saw him get knocked down with the first punch that Jamal Emmers landed, which is not the best look. So yeah, I really worry about the durability of Sabatini. I worry about the cardio as well. We have seen him slow down in the past, and Jonathan Pearce is a guy you just don't want to slow down against. So -185, it's a lot for Pearce, because I feel like he is going to probably get himself put into some bad spots here. But to his credit, he's able to fight out of a lot of these bad spots. He's able to push that pace, and I think he can kind of break Sabatini down the stretch. So I'm leading Jonathan Pearce here, and I think he wins this fight via TKO in the second round. Next, we have Ramazan Temirov going against CJ Vergara. We got Temirov, 27 years old, 5'5", 17-2, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Vergara, 33 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach, 12-5 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Temirov opened up -255. He's now -340. Vergara opened up +215. He's now +280. And this is a weird fight for me. So Temirov obviously making his debut here. This guy's 17-2, good record, has fought some solid guys outside the UFC. But I don't know, I'm not extremely impressed with the guy. This guy is kind of a knockout artist, which, in the flyweight division, we don't see a ton of knockouts, but I think his last 4 or 5 wins do come by knockout. I think in the first round as well, he swings with very bad intentions, has a ton of power, looking to take your head off, but is that going to work here against CJ Vergara, who is, typically pretty durable? Vergara's never been knocked out. He has been subbed twice. We did see him almost get knocked out by Daniel Da Silva Lacerda, though, so maybe Temirov's able to hurt him there. But yeah, I kind of worry about what happens if this fight does go the distance, if this fight does get extended for Temirov, because Vergara, is, like I said, tough guy, good cardio, but I think Temirov is going to land some big shots here early. Does he knock out Vergara, though? I'll say he does. I mean, like I said, if Lacerda is able to hurt you, I think Temirov, the name's getting me, Temirov can get him out of there, potentially. So I'll go Temirov to win this fight. I'll say first round knockout, but this might be a good like live bet spot. Like if Temirov's not able to knock out Vergara in the first, like this fight could get very interesting very quickly. But yeah, I'll go Temirov to win this fight by first round knockout. Moving on, we got Clayton Carpenter going against Lucas Rocha. We got Carpenter, 28 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach, 7-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Lucas Rocha, he's 25 years old, 5'3" with a 64-inch reach, 17-1 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Carpenter opened up minus 350, he's now minus 205, and Rocha opened up plus 285. He's currently plus 175. And yeah, I like Carpenter here. I think there's a lot of reasons to like him in this spot. Outside of, he is coming off of a pretty long layoff, but we see time and time again with these younger guys when they do take a year off, like 2 years off even, which in this case I think Carpenter has been out for a year and 7 months. We see like an improved version of Carpenter as well, or some of these fighters, we could see an improved version of Carpenter as well, which would be kind of scary because I think this guy's already pretty solid. The striking's good, the wrestling's really good, the grappling's really good, and you take a look at Rocha, who he did win his fight against Bittencourt on the Contender Series, but he did lose that entire first round. My pick in that fight was actually Bittencourt to win the fight by decision, and it kind of looked like that was going to be the case. Like Bittencourt was able to take him down no problem, but Rocha was able to land something in the second round and get a knockout, and a great knockout it was. But I'm watching some of these Rocha fights outside the UFC, and it's the same thing. This guy's getting taken down. I think the takedown defense is a concern. He's making mistakes really wherever the fight goes. On the mat, he's getting controlled. He's giving up his back. He's giving up bad positions, and I don't think that's going to do too well, against Clayton Carpenter here, who's a high-level black belt on the mat. And then on top of that, in the striking, Rocha has some power, but he's very, very hittable. I think his chin, his durability is questionable. He's getting dropped in pretty much every single fight I've seen. He's been knocked out in his only loss. So yeah, I think Carpenter should go out there, and as long as there's no ring rust, I think he should go out there and dominate this fight and potentially get a finish along the way. So yeah, I like Carpenter to win this fight, and I'll take him to win this fight by second round knockout. Moving on, we got Themba Gorimbo going against Niko Price. We got Gorimbo, 33 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach, 13-4 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Price, 35 years old, 6 foot with a 76-inch reach, 16-7 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We have Gorimbo opening at minus 300. He's currently minus 375. Price opened up plus 250. He's currently a plus 310 underdog. And yeah, this line is kind of wild to me as well. Like, Themba, I'm not the highest on Themba. I know people are really excited about this guy. With that said, though, I do think he's improving at a very rapid rate, training at a good gym with good guys. So I think this is one of those fights where it's just like, both these guys are different trajectories in their careers. Themba is most definitely on the way up. He's going out there, he's looking better. Even at 33, he's going out there, he's making massive improvements. He's finally getting some really good training the last couple of years, and we're seeing just a much improved version of Themba each and every time we see him step in the cage. With Price, though, it's the complete opposite. We're seeing a more and more diminished version of Price each and every time he stepped in the cage. Like, Price has looked kind of rough for a while now. You take a look at Price in some of his last few fights, even like the Donald Cerrone fight, like that wasn't the best look in the world because Donald Cerrone at that point was kind of on his way out. The Michel Pereira fight wasn't the best look. Even like his win against Alex Oliveira, who was on his way out, that wasn't the best look. Got finished by Phil Rowe, got knocked out in 30 seconds by Robbie Lawler, didn't like that. And then his last fight against Alex Morono, I thought both those guys just looked awful. And I think that's kind of why we're getting a price tag of where it's at. People want to look to fade Niko Price, and I get it, but minus 375 on Themba, I don't know about that. But yeah, I'll pick Themba to win. I guess the question I have is how is Themba going to approach this fight? Is he going to go out there and stand and bang with Niko Price? If he does that, I think he can get a knockout here. I think Price, the durability is diminishing. Again, getting knocked out by Robbie Lawler in 30 seconds, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. So I could see a Themba knockout. But we could also see Themba go out there and just, hump Price's leg for 15 minutes like he did in the Brahimaj fight. Like, he went out there against Brahimaj and got 10 minutes of control. We could see that as well. But I'm hoping he goes out there and makes us look exciting. And if he does, I think he knocks out Price in the first round. So give me Themba to win by first round knockout. All right, moving on to the next fight. We got Daniel Rodriguez going against Alex Morono. We got Rodriguez, 37 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach, 17-5 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Morono, 34 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach, 24-10 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We have D-Rod opened up minus 250. He's now minus 210, and then Morono opened up plus 210. He is now plus 180. And, back to that. Man, that Price Morono fight was an awful look for Alex Morono. And I don't know what's up with Morono, because sometimes he shows up, he looks in really good shape, he goes out there, he has a good performance, and then sometimes he shows up, he looks awful, and then it translates to the fight. He just looks awful in the fight, looks terrible. And that Price fight was just the worst he's ever looked. I went back and watched that fight, and it's like this guy was completely death-gassed with 1 minute left in the first round, which that's not like Alex Morono. And this is another fight where he's taken it on somewhat short notice again. I think it's like 3 weeks short notice, maybe even less for this fight. I mean, this guy's got to stop taking short notice fights. I think it's like pretty much the same exact notice he had for the Price fight. So I want to see Morono on the scales. I want to see what he looks like. If he shows up looking as bad as he did for the Price fight on the scale, I think D-Rod probably crushes him. But if we do get Morono coming in here in great shape, ready to go, somewhat prepared for this fight, yeah, this should be a close fight, because I think D-Rod is certainly declining as well. D-Rod has not looked like the same fighter the last several years, so this is one where I do need to see the weigh-ins, and it will either add or subtract confidence on my pick, but I'm picking D-Rod regardless. I think he's the better striker, quicker, harder hitter, and looks less washed. I think both these guys look a little bit on their way out, but even though Rodriguez is 3 years older, that Price performance from Morono was just the worst performance I've ever seen. Even the Court McGee fight, the win from Morono, it wasn't the best look. So I'm going D-Rod by decision, but if Morono shows up looking awful, I'm probably changing that to knockout. Moving on to the next fight, we got Razak Alhassan going against Josh Fremd. We got Razak Alhassan, 39 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 12-6 and 2-2 and 1 no contest his last 5 fights. Josh Fremd, 30 years old, 6'4", with a 76-inch reach, 11-6 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Razak Alhassan opened at minus 140, currently minus 165, and Josh Fremd opened up plus 120. He's currently a plus 145 underdog. I think it's a fun fight. I think it's a violent fight. I think these guys are going to stand and bang. Went and listened to Josh Fremd's interview, and he was talking about how he really dropped the ball in his last fight against Polastri, which he did. I mean, holy crap, that was awful. Polastri took him down. Fremd laid on his back for 15 minutes, and he's talking about wanting to go out there and make up for it and potentially stand and bang here, which that'd be exciting, but I just don't, that's probably not the best idea. But if these guys do stand and bang, both guys have power, but one guy has like ridiculous power, and that's Razak Alhassan. Alhassan is getting up there in age at 39, but as we know, the power is the last thing to go, and this guy has just a lot of it. We even saw in his last fight against Brundage, was very close to knocking Brundage out. The fight probably could have been stopped. He ended up landing some shots to the back of the head, ended up getting a no contest, but he finished Brundage that night, in my opinion. So yeah, I think these guys are going to go out there, they're going to swing and give me the harder hitter in Alhassan. On top of that, Alhassan's more durable. Fremd, he's very hittable. I think Fremd has like a sub 50% strike and defense. Yeah, 47% strike and defense. I don't really see Fremd being able to get takedowns, at least early on. So yeah, I think these guys are going to be forced to stand and trade. And if they do, I think Alhassan's going to touch the chin of Josh Fremd. Fremd's been knocked out before. Fremd was knocked out by Gregory Rodriguez outside the UFC. Fremd was also knocked out by Roman Kopylov as well. And I think Alhassan's going to probably knock him out too. Alhassan, 12 wins? All 12 of those come by knockout. All 12 of those come in the first 6 minutes of the fight. And I kind of see something like that happening here, especially if he comes out there and fights like he did in the Brundage fight. So yeah, I'm going Alhassan to win by knockout in the first round. Next, we have another very explosive fight. It is Chidi and Njokuani going against Jared Gooden. We got Chidi, 35 years old, 6'3", with an 80-inch reach, 23-10 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Gooden is 30 years old, 6 foot, with a 77-inch reach, 23-9 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have Chidi opened at minus 150. He's currently minus 170. Gooden opened at plus 130. He's currently a plus 145 underdog. And yeah, I'm going to go with Gooden here. Chidi, I don't know what he's doing at welterweight, really. The weight cut's got to be absolutely brutal for Chidi. And this guy's 35 years old, has a ton of fights. Cutting down to welterweight, I don't think is the best option for him. And his weight cut looked just brutal in his last fight against Rhys McKee. And I think, the performance wasn't great at all either. I mean, I think a lot of people, including me, expected him to go out there and completely starch Rhys McKee, but it ended up being the worst fight I've ever seen. ended up going to decision where, Chidi was able to kind of do the better work on the feet. Reese was kind of holding on for dear life against the cage. Just a terrible fight. Not the best look in my opinion. Even it was a split decision against Reese McKee as well. I mean, one judge scored the fight for Reese McKee. That's not a great look to me. Jared Gooden, he's very hittable, but I do think he's the more durable fighter. Chidi's been finished in, I think, 8 or 9 times in his career. We've seen Chidi quit in fights before. So yeah, I think this is a fight where the first round is going to worry me a little bit because I do think Chidi is the better striker. I think he does have more tools on the feet. I do think he does have more power as well. But we've seen time and time again, if Chidi's not the hammer, and if he's the nail, he looks for a way out. He's looked for the door just so many times in the past. Even times in the UFC, we've seen him look for the door. In the Olazechuk fight, in the Rodriguez fight. If Gooden can get on top here, especially, I think Gooden can show him the door as well. So, yeah, give me Gooden here. Give me the younger guy. I think Chidi's cuts too much weight. I think the cut to welterweight is just unnecessary. I think he should stick at middle personally. Gooden's the more durable fighter. I think Gooden has more heart. So yeah, give me Gooden to weather the early storm and get a finish in the second round by knockout. So yeah, Gooden second round knockout for me. Moving on, we have Grant Dawson going against Rafa Garcia. We got Dawson, 30 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 21-2-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Garcia is 30 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach, 16-3 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Dawson opened up minus 700. He's minus 400. Garcia opened up plus 525. He's currently plus 300. And yeah, this fight, when I first saw it, I mean, it just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I think Dawson is a top 15 guy easily with top 10 upside. I'm like looking through the top 15 at lightweight. I'm like, oh, he could probably beat this guy. He could beat this guy. He could beat this guy. So yeah, kind of would like to see him, fight up into that top 15. And if he gets this win, I think he will eventually. But yeah, I mean, this is a spot where I just think he's the better fighter here. I just think he's another level of above Garcia, and I think Garcia is even a good fighter. I think Garcia is well-rounded, the striking solid, the volume's good, even the grappling is good. I just think Dawson's going to be better, much better with the wrestling, with the grappling especially. So yeah, I like Dawson here. I mean, just seeing him go out there and do some of the things he's doing, like Mark Madsen, Jared Gordon, submitting Jared Gordon in the 3rd round. What he did to Damir Ismagulov was very impressive to me. So I think it's going to be your typical Dawson, getting takedowns, rinse and repeat, wearing on Garcia, and then eventually finding a submission in the 2nd or 3rd round. So yeah, give me Dawson here. Give me Dawson to win this fight by 3rd round submission. Co-main event time. It is Jung Young Park going against Brad Tavares. We got Park, 33 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 17-6 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Tavares, he is 36 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach, 20-9 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We got Park opened up minus 185. He's currently minus 190, and Tavares opened up plus 160. He's currently plus 165. So yeah, we were supposed to be watching this fight like a couple months ago, I think. Park pulled out due to not getting cleared medically. But yeah, I'm sticking with my pick here. It's Park. I do think this fight's going to be close, though. I think it is going to go to decision. I think it is probably going to come down to the crooked, corrupt judges. I just can't pick Tavares, though. I mean, Tavares, I think, is on a pretty big decline. I mean, he's looking worse and worse as the fight goes, as his career's gone on. He's taken more and more damage. I think the Dricus fight took a lot out of him, where he didn't get finished in that fight, but he just took a ton of damage in that fight. I thought the Chris Weidman win was an awful look. I mean, not being able to finish Weidman in that fight, which is a terrible look to me. So yeah, I think Tavares is kind of on his way out. Park did have a good run. I think Park was on like a 5-fight win streak up until the Muniz fight, where he did lose, but it was a close fight. Yeah, I think Park just does the better work here on the feet. I think the fight takes place out on the feet for 15 minutes. So again, it could be a close fight, but it's hard for me to pick Tavares at this point. So I'm going Park and Park by decision. All right, main event time. It is Tatsuro Taira going against Brandon Royval. We got Tatsuro is 24 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach, 16-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Royval, 32 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach, 16-7 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Tatsuro Taira opened up minus 350. He's currently minus 300. Brandon Royval opened up plus 285. He's currently plus 250. If this was a 3-round fight, I would say I'd be a lot more confident in Tatsuro Taira here. But the fact that it is 5 rounds does give me some pause, because we've seen Royval go 25 minutes. Royval has elite cardio. Royval has pretty good durability as well, but Royval also has some of the worst takedown defense you'll ever see in your entire life. 40% takedown defense for Royval. He's getting taken down anytime somebody wants to take him down, get him down, and that should be the case here with Taira. So the thing with Taira is once he does get you down, because Taira doesn't have the best wrestling in the world, but his grappling is just like on another level. His control's on another level. So I think Taira can get a takedown here, and once he does get that takedown, it's probably the round. It could look like the Royval Pantoja 2, where Pantoja got a takedown and was able to pretty much control Royval in a lot of those rounds. It could look like a lot like that, and I think Taira even has better control than like a Pantoja as well. So again, if this was 3 rounds, I'd be a lot more confident. But yeah, takedowns should come free here for Taira. I like the striking of Royval, the volume, the variety, but yeah, anytime Taira wants to get the fight down to the mat, he will, and once he does, that's probably the round, if not maybe the fight. So I'll get Taira to win at least 3 of these 5 rounds, but yeah, round 4 or 5, it could get interesting if it gets there. But yeah, I'll go Taira to win this fight, and I'll take him to win this fight by decision. There you guys have it. Sorry guys, I had to try to rush through that. But yeah, those are the picks and predictions for UFC Vegas 98. Be on the lookout for more content throughout the week. Final thoughts on Friday, best bet on Saturday. Betting breakdown video will be coming out as well. Have a lot of spots sticking out for this card. I think we're going to finally get some violence for this card. I think it's an underrated card as well. So you're hoping to have a solid night in that aspect of things. And then we have Dana White's Contender Series week number 10, the final week. That content will be out soon as well. So make sure you are subscribed to not miss out on all of that. Best of luck, everybody, for UFC Vegas 98. Enjoy the fights, and we will talk to you guys soon. See you.